I figured since you've already learned how to make manga tones, and if not, I got plenty of videos with links below, but I figured I'd probably expand it into making some unique patterns, so let's get right into creating some plaids. Hey, welcome back. This is Cetriya, Cetriya, and if you get a chance, please feel free to leave your questions, comments, thoughts below, or check out any of my shop links if you wish to support my work. Anyhow, we're gonna go straight into it. I try to keep it short. It took me about an hour to do, but I figure you don't have an hour to watch me do this. So creating plaids is relatively easy to do, and you can make it as complex or as simple as you want. And as you can see right here, I'm just making various rectangles. What you want to do is making your first set of rectangles horizontally or vertically, and then afterwards kind of like duplicate it, mirror it, and rotate it. Right now, I'm doing it in Photoshop. Illustrator is probably pretty good to do. Each of the rectangles are in a different layer, only just so that way it's easier for me to move them around. But if you want to just freehand it and just do it by hand, you can do that too. But as you can see, it's not that difficult. After that, I just set the layer to multiply, and there you go. You already see like the checkered little plaid thing. Overall, visually, I try to keep things relatively like a square. So you can see on the upper right corner, it looked like I'm making squares within the squares. Also, it's up to you how you want to layer your colors and just mixing it up. But you can see right here that I definitely kept the shape relative to each other. So it's not like I had a bunch of multiple rectangles. It's like I have a vertical set, and then I duplicate, rotate it, and make it a horizontal set. And then after some color adjustments, you can see right here, I went into the pattern creation tool, which is basically, edit, define pattern once you select the whole artboard, and it saves it as a pattern. So that was pretty quick, right? So we got the artwork here. Now, how do you use your pattern? I go ahead and get a new artwork, then creating a layer on top. You go ahead and select your layer styles, which you can do on your upper menu, but I usually tend to like to use it in my layers menu, the little icon towards the bottom. And as you can see, it shows up as an effect as a pattern overlay. Making sure that that layer is set to multiply and the pattern is set to multiply, I go ahead and I color in where I want the shape to be in, and I almost always use white because it gets a bit more complex. And I think later on in another video, because I don't want to make this too long, I might really detail out that little tidbit. But basically you can use your paintbrush, or you can use a fill bucket tool. Right here I'm using the lasso tool, or you can paint it in, you can edit it out, because the layer itself is an effect layer, and again you just use a white brush and fill it in. Now what's so cool about that is you could always double click the effects and resize. You can also rotate, you can actually change the opacity, change the blend mode. So right here, I'm just messing around it to where it kind of looks good for me. And once I got what I want, I'm enjoying it. And again, mess around with some blending options and whatnot, which I'm sure that it's not just Photoshop that has this option in creating these patterns and messing around with blending tools. So just showing you a quick example of what you can do. You could always add on to the artwork. As you can see here, I'm filling it in with the pattern and continuing on, just going with the flow basically. And once you fill it out from there, you can go ahead and save it. You can save it as color, but since most of the things that I do is like mangas type stuff, you can save it pretty much as grayscale, and it's best to keep it grayscale versus actually changing it into that manga tone texture. And of course, if you use color, you can just use it for a regular artwork. the last bit is whenever you save anything in like your patterns after you define patterns, it's actually permanently in your Photoshop unless you actually go into the patterns menu and delete it, which again, that's like an extra little technical tidbit that's specific to Photoshop. And I would like to keep this mostly like program agnostic. So as you can see here, I went ahead and just to show you guys what would, if you were to do this by hand, what would it look like? You would put the extra layer once you copied it from your tone file and, resize it, mess around it, duplicate it, clone stamp it, all of that good jazz, and get it to where you can see the line art. So right here, my second video idea just from doing this, from recording this, is probably going to go in and really talk a bit more about tips for clipping masks. So again, let me know if that's what you're interested in. But right here you can see that I've unlinked, like there's like a little link between the art and the black mask tool, and that's mostly so that way you can move around the art without the masking tool moving with it. If it's still linked together, then anytime you make any kind of like adjustments, the whole clipping mask is adjusted. And the thing about clipping mask is anytime you transform, move, rotate, whatnot, the actual artwork, what's actually shown through, like what's masked out, stays the same. And of course you can always go back and edit, and I prefer this way versus warping it ahead of time and then just erasing the art, because what if you make a mistake, you end up already erasing the art, and no amount of edit undo is going to help that much. But yeah, let's quickly just modify some artwork once I got the general shape of the clipping mask in. So from here, you would have the actual masking part selected, and just going in and carving out or erasing out or painting out the edges or the highlights that I would like for my tone. Again, the tone is still kept to grayscale, because if I would have the manga tone texture and try and warp the artwork, you would end up with some weird texture, like just some weird blurred shape. So I prefer to do all my edits for these fancier tones as a grayscale. And of course I could add or change the contrast. And of course you don't have to do like a hard edge brush. It could be soft, it could be dithered. And again, I encourage you to check out my original toning videos to get more detail of that effect. So jumping right towards the end, just giving some quick effects so you can see a preview of what it looks like now that you've had both tones. And right here, I'm going to finalize the actual artwork so that way it gives a full tone texture. And again, you can see right here, there goes the full texture. So I hope you guys enjoy, and I hope that you get a chance to try this out. Let me know. Or you could always respond in my community tab post whenever I post on there. And again, feel free to support me, much appreciated, or give me some feedback. Anyhow, be sure to check out these videos on toning if you missed that, and I will see you in the next one.